Yo, what is up, my Nakama? So my name is Daniel and I'm a current third year medical student, and today I'm still on internal medicine. It's been 7 weeks of this. Next week is my last week of internal medicine. This rotation is going to be done. I'm so glad. It's been so time consuming, and I'll actually have some big news coming up in the following weeks, but I'll share that in some later videos. But these last 2 weeks I'm on the leukemia service before my shelf exam, which is next Friday. And leukemia has been very interesting and very eye-opening too, about medicine and kind of the role physicians have and how we treat patients. And it's definitely a tough service to be on, because these diagnoses of leukemia and different types of blood cancers are really hard to give, first of all, and they're really emotional as well, because no one wants to hear that they have leukemia, and people don't know how to react. They have so many questions, and even I have questions that I don't know the answers to. So sometimes it's difficult to interact with patients in terms of telling them what the treatment plan is and what side effects they're going to have, because sometimes I have no idea what side effects some of these new medications are going to have. But from what a lot of the residents have told me and a lot of the people who are going into leukemia, the future is promising and hopeful in terms of treatments. And I'll get a little bit into that later into the video, because I'm running a little bit late. I got to get to my morning rounds at the hospital right now and see all the patients that I'm supposed to see. But hopefully this is a fun video. Not too sad, but leukemia, it can be sad, it can be emotional, but I always like to remain positive and hopeful. So let's get going.
Yeah, look, I'm in line with the stars, I'm in sync with the earth. 10 toes deep, flower child from the turf. I never switch sides, even when I die, I'm a ride for the squad, let her ties in the hearse. I've been on a vibe, kinda hard to describe. I'm in between, I'm good and it's fine, but I'm tired of the grind. Then I come alive in the night to realize I'm in the middle of the time of my life. I'm never so packed for the stack, never lied on the rap. Got a bag from the way that I write it. Queen looking Tyson, threw that ass survive, doing 80 to the house. Then I hit it to the sky, changed haters on a tirade. Talking to their grip in the face, be still, let that hate stuff fade. We all want the same, we all want a meal in the safe. I wanna live like I'm trying to reach enlightenment. Trail spill from my lips, feel big from the bib. Take a sip till I pass out. Try and get grit, but it don't make sense, cause you can lose life on this fast route. Yeah, turn thoughts to a cash cow. I might flip that to the glass house. I don't need the accolades, I'm in love with the chase. I just wanna eat, save a spot at the table. Beast with the slap, pin myself on the map. You long with the wind, but we knowing that it's cap. 5-hour flights, couple nights at the flat. To be real, couldn't see me making moves while I'm at. I'm still on the grind, limit time when I chat. I'm burning down sage, keep the demons away. When I write it, give a piece of myself to the page. I don't do it for the praise, love, that's just how I'm made.
Alright, so my day has finally ended. It is 5:40 p.m., so definitely a super long day. Pretty much 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 12-hour shifts. Definitely tough, but today was a pretty good day overall, actually. So it was one of my patient's birthday, so I actually had the nurses bring him a strawberry cake to celebrate. Definitely not a fun reason to be in the hospital, but you gotta be positive and happy whenever you get the opportunity to. And then for another patient, it's super interesting because what we've been doing is I've essentially followed him from his diagnosis to his bone marrow biopsy to his treatment, which he started yesterday. And to see all of this happen and to be so involved with his care is definitely something that's really rewarding and something that I'm glad I got the opportunity to be a part of. And so this patient that I'm taking care of was diagnosed with AML, which is a horrible diagnosis to get. It's acute myeloid leukemia. It's like a blood cancer if you don't know what leukemia is. So blood cancers are bad because, your blood is everywhere. And if your bone marrow is producing this cancer, then you gotta treat them with chemotherapeutics to basically eradicate their bone marrow and try and kill off all the bad cancer cells. So that's what's happening right now. So I'm hoping that this chemotherapy is going to be effective and that he'll go into complete remission when we biopsy his bone marrow for the second time and see if there's any remaining cancer cells. But to be so involved in his care is definitely something that I didn't think I was prepared for, because I'm essentially seeing him every day and updating him on his treatment and updating him on lab values that we're getting. So I feel like I'm a really important part of the team, and I'm actually working my attending His name is Dr. Powell. He's a physician who helped pioneer the treatment for APL, which is acute promyelocytic leukemia. The treatment for that is vitamin A and arsenic. And he was one of the first physicians, well, I think he was the first physician to basically use it and show in trials that it essentially cures acute promyelocytic leukemia. So to work with him, he's like 77 years old, I think, or 72, I forgot. But he's definitely an older physician. But to work with him, like a legend in the leukemia field, is a privilege that I enjoy a lot. So I'm really glad that I get to see how he works with patients and the care he has for all his leukemia patients. Because honestly, being a leukemia physician is tough. Like, these diagnoses are some of the worst things you can tell people. So, to do this for 40 years, you have to have a lot of compassion and resilience. And you certainly have to be really smart and up to date, because the treatments are constantly changing as more drugs are being developed, as more chemotherapies and even more like therapies related to immunotherapies are being developed. You have to keep up to date with this and with the clinical trials, because you never know what you can offer your patients, to offer them some hope, or if they're refractory to some chemotherapies, to offer them different treatment modalities to potentially cure them. And I'm really hopeful, because one of the residents that I'm working with, he wants to go into hem-onc or leukemia, and he's done a lot of his own research on new treatments that are being developed. And some of the data is really promising, because it used to be, you would get a diagnosis of leukemia and you would maybe have 3 or 4 months left to live, just an awful diagnosis to get. But now those rates are steadily climbing up, and people are living longer and longer with these diseases. And hopefully at some point we reach where we can actually cure all of these leukemias. And now it would be certainly a wonderful future to live in. But for now, we have to treat patients symptomatically and do the best we can to at least extend their life for as long as possible, and even get complete remission. But a lot of times, even with complete remission, a patient can relapse, and then they have to be treated again with either the same chemotherapy regimen or a different one. But yeah, today was very interesting. I helped with a lot of patient care. So now I'm going to head back home, and Fridays I generally like to go on a run. So I'm going to go on a run outside and then eat some good dinner. So I'll see you then. Pew. Now, I forgot to show you guys, but this is actually, this slide right here, it has a lot of meaning to me. So the pathologist that I was working with, this is from the patient's peripheral blood smear. So this is his actual slide that we used basically to see his increase in his peripheral blood, his increase in blasts, which were circulating in his peripheral blood, which led to our diagnosis of AML. It was one of the findings that helped us diagnose him. And so the pathologist actually just handed me this slide and said, just keep it, so you remember the first patient with AML that you treated. And it is this slide. I mean, it's like, look, it's just a tiny slide, and it carries such a heavy weight and a diagnosis on it. And, the reason I'm keeping it is just to remind myself that, one, a lot of people are going through way worse things than I am currently. And two, how powerful medicine is, just how we can diagnose and treat patients just by, looking at their blood under a microscope and running some lab tests. And, the third and main reason I'm keeping this is just kind of for sentimental purposes, so that I don't ever forget, telling him this news and what he went through. And, we're still treating him, so I don't know what his prognosis is going to be, and I don't know if he's going to go into complete remission or not. But, this slide right here, it does carry a lot of value for me. So I'm going to hold on to it so, that I never forget him. And yeah, I'm glad the pathologist gave this to me, and I'll probably store it somewhere, and every now and then it'll just, remind me of this leukemia patient that I took care of. But yeah, not trying to get too sappy or sentimental here, but it's certainly, I appreciate this a lot. All right, so I just got back from my run, and currently I'm doing at least 3 to 4 runs a week. I'm trying to be able to run a 5-minute mile, and right now I just did a neighborhood run, which is actually 2 miles. So I try and train myself for endurance, and then some days I try and train for speed on the treadmill. Right now my fastest mile I ever ran was like a 6-minute mile, and it's really hard to start cutting down on your time once you get to the 6-minute mark. Like going from 6 minutes to 5 minutes 30 seconds to 5 minutes 20 seconds is a huge change, but that's one of my goals for this year. But now that I got back, I'm going to do some stretches and actually a quick ab routine to end my workout for today. Alright, so today is actually the next day, and I forgot to film yesterday, but it's the morning now, it's Saturday, and I'm going to be studying and doing some questions because my internal medicine shelf exam is next Friday, and then I'm finally done with my whole internal medicine unit. This past week on the leukemia service has definitely been an eye-opening experience for me, dealing with patients who are extremely sick, possibly some of the sickest patients in the hospital. And you know, it is certainly tough to see every day, and I can't imagine physicians who do this day in and day out. But I certainly have a respect for all the oncologists and all the leukemia doctors out there. You know, the one thing I can say, you know, if you have a family member or know someone that has leukemia or has had it, it's definitely a very tough diagnosis. But, you know, as we advance in our medicines and our treatments, I do see the potential for a lot of curative treatment options in the future, especially some of the treatment options that they're developing now. Basically, it starts with a B. It's like some umumab. I forgot. They have a ton of different names, but basically the way it works is it tells your T cells to bind to your abnormal B cells, and it basically makes it so that your own immune system will kill off the cancer cells. And this is a really awesome and neat way of targeting cancer cells and making it so that your own immune system actually kills them. And some of our patients are actually going through this treatment, and some patients actually, I wasn't on the service, but I was told that after 3 or 4 days of treatment, they basically had 0 blast cells in their peripheral blood, meaning that all their blast cells were basically eradicated within only 3 to 4 days of treatment. Now, obviously they can come back, but this is really promising because it shows how fast and effective these new treatment modalities are. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say in this video. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm almost done with internal medicine. I'm counting down the days. The shelf exam is basically going to be step 2, so I have no idea how it's going to go, but I'm just going to study as hard as I can for this last week that I'm on internal medicine. My next week is still leukemia because we have 2 weeks of leukemia, and then we have a vacation, so I'll be a free man. But hope you enjoyed this video. Stay strong and healthy, everyone. And as always, Dr. Bayo.